listeners, and that was One of Tricks Point Never. That was a track Blow by Blow from the 2018 EP titled The Station. I believe that was released around the time of one of his other albums. What was it called? It was, I believe, Age of. Yes. That album, pretty underrated in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Pretty underrated. But yeah. Good afternoon, listeners of Coffee Noise. I'm your host, DJ Marlin, and if you can believe it, it's Tuesday once again. How we doing out there, listeners? Today, it is the 21st of November, 2023. Let's get a quick look at the weather right now. Currently in the city of Edinburgh, we are at a nice temperature of 67 degrees. We're going to have a high of 68 with a low of 58 degrees, so it's a pretty comfortable weather today. It was very, very comfortable. I personally do like going on for, I guess you could say walks. I went to the store earlier, got myself an energy drink, and I went to myself, why do I have issues sleeping at night? Well, listeners, I like drinking a lot of energy drinks. I got like a sour pink lemonade flavor. Pretty good. It's not gonna be my favorite flavor, which is the orange creamsicle. I think that one's like straight up their best flavor. But you know what? We're gonna start off with that. Anyways, listeners, today we're gonna be playing a total of 7 tracks for you today. We started to start off with some classic electronica music. I've been getting into the very heavy electronic wave recently. But before we get into the next track, let's talk about some albums coming out this week on Friday. Nothing really to pique my interest, although we are getting a new Gilded by Voices album, Nowhere to Go But Up. I'm definitely going to be looking into that. As well as a Tina Turner, Queen of Rock and Roll, released on Rhino Records. But anyways, let's talk about albums that came out last week, because there were some pretty heavy hitters. The main one I'm pretty sure everyone's been talking about recently is the new Andre 3000 album, New Blue Sun. It's beautiful. It's a great album. I wasn't expecting an ambient flute album. It sounds like something some independent musician from Brooklyn would upload on Bandcamp, you know what I'm saying? But it's an amazing album. It's really beautiful for being 8 tracks and an hour and a half long. It's really good. I really can't say anything about that much. The other album we were able to get was the new Danny Brown album. Loving it. I absolutely love the album. There's the lyric though. I mean, not even the lyric. I think it was just the entire promotional for the album. Since the album cover, he was like, Danny was making memes about it. It was like, you know, that's smart. I like that. I like when artists, I feel like some artists, they take it too serious when releasing music, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I find it refreshing when they throw a little bit of humor into it, because, Danny said it himself. He's on the internet subcultures. He knows what's up. He's been on the Reddit and 4chan. He knows what's up on those depths of the internet. By the way, not the best places to be on. Just saying, people's music opinion on those websites, horrible. A lot of them say they don't like Britney Spears. I'll be honest, I personally do like Britney Spears, but you know, that's a tale for another day, or maybe next semester, actually, depending on timing wise. But yeah, the album, pretty good. I think Pitchfork gave it like a 6.5. I don't know what they were doing. That album is well deserving more than a 6.5 in my opinion. But I feel like that's the opinion that's like accepted by everyone, because I feel like I don't need to go into detail why. And the Andre 3000 album, I think it got like an 8 point something, but it was labeled under hip hop. The album is an ambient flute album. Where do you get hip hop from that? I understand he was part of Outkast, but like, that was in the early 2000s. This is his solo work. His first work in, I think, like, 16 years? You could put some respect on it. You know what? That's just me. I'm gonna keep it a $1.50. That's just me. Anyways, let's talk about the next song we're gonna be playing for today. We're gonna throw it back to 2013. Let's play some nice classic electronic music. This is Boards of Canada from the album Tomorrow's Harvest, a really good concept album. This is Jacquard Causeway. Let's get into it. Remember, you're listening to Coffee Noise. Don't touch that dial. That's Boards of Canada. It's been 10 years since that album's come out, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting for some more music from the band. It's rough out here. It's very rough out here to be to listen to Boards of Canada. It's rough out here. The album has that very decay and lonely sound. The members of Boards of Canada said they were inspired by those 70s to 80s sci-fi films. I think you've seen those. You know, the ones you wake up at close to 3 in the morning. You left the TV on. You don't remember when, but you fell asleep. And in the morning, you just play those weird B-side movies. Like, I remember once there was a movie I watched. It felt like a fever dream until I found it a few years ago. It was like in a rural silo, like a farm silo in America, and these giant ants overtook it, and they were causing mayhem. It was the weirdest thing ever. I think I saw it when I was maybe like 7 or 8 for the first time, and I didn't know what it was. You know, I thought, was I dreaming? There's just no way that was a real film. It wasn't until like maybe 2 or 3 years ago I found out, no, it is an actual film. You were not dreaming. That was an actual film. I forgot the name off the top of my head, but it's a great film. It's one of those weird films you see people talking about the internet, but you're like, oh, that's nonsense. No, that can never exist. And like, no, it actually does. It's weird, you know what I'm saying? It's weird. I don't know how to describe it. But that, yeah, it's just weird. Oh, man, that's such a weird film now looking back on it. I'm trying to see if I can try to get like a DVD copy of that film. I feel that'd be a major flex to have in your collection. Weird films. I'm starting to get more into collecting films, Criterion collection, you know, movie films, you know, that kind of stuff. There's some good films out there. Over the weekend, actually not weekend, yesterday, I was doing some schoolwork and I was finishing up watching Uncut Gems. I love that movie. I love the soundtrack. I mean, Daniel Lopatin, who, you know, the man behind One of the Tricks Point Never, it's amazing. Especially that title track, Uncut Gems. Spoiler alerts for those who haven't seen the film. One, you should. I don't know what you're doing not watching it, but the end, they kill Howard, and it just zooms on his face, and they also kill his brother. It's the soundtrack is very hypnotic. It really catches you. Like, or a good film can be a good film by itself. You know, because there's a thing, I personally like watching bad films. That's one of my main hobbies. But a good soundtrack, that can be a lifesaver. One of the worst films I've seen. It's been a few. Well, I mean, everyone's seen Birdemic. I feel, but that's not really a bad movie. It's more like a meme at this point, right? Like, this film is so bad, and it looks like it was made from a can of worms and Microsoft 99 or something like that. But bad film that I've seen recently. Well, I can't remember actually. I know there's bad films I've seen. Let's see. YouTube films. But I feel like that's kind of like beating on a dead horse, saying like, oh yeah, films written by YouTubers are never really good, since there's like a major difference between, you know, writing a script for a YouTube video to writing a script for an actual feature-length film that actually has to get certified. Like these bad films YouTubers make or anyone makes, someone has to rate these films. They're like, wow, this movie is horrible, but you know what, PG-13. I mean, I feel like I would love that job, just to watch horrible movies every single day and get paid to do so. Maybe, actually, I'd probably hate it. I don't know. Anyway, let's get back into the music. Let's start off with some classic, almost shoegazy, like Japanese rock. Then we're going to finish off this half hour with some mathcore. This is Lereles Dunedes. Alright, listeners, and we are back. It is 3:01 in the afternoon. Let's talk about some music that I've been recently listening to again a lot. Let's see, at the top of my list, ooh, there was a lot of albums, you know what I'm saying? Let's see. Oh, yes. So, over the weekend, I was listening to that Philip Glass album, Einstein on the Beach. It's beautiful. There's a version from 1979. It has Michael Reisman, the Philip Glass Ensemble, Mark Jacoby, and the Philip Gavin Smith. It's amazing. It was very hypnotic for me. It almost felt more of a experience. I think that would be like experience. I guess you could say that. It's very calming. It's beautiful. It had me in a trance. You know what I'm saying? Probably not, and I don't blame you, because neither do I. Anyways, let's look at what Rate Your Music is talking about recently. There's a few albums I've been talking about, but I haven't really been paying attention. Let's see. Earlier, we had the album anniversary of the of the 2004 MF Doom album, Food. I mean, it's a classic hip-hop album. If you haven't heard that album, I honestly don't know what you're doing, really, because that album, it's classic. That's really not up for debate. It just is. But yeah, I mean, that album, what's a track off that album that I like? You know what, why not? Let's go down a rabbit hole on that album. Jeez, I mean, that title, track 13, the Rap Snitch Knishes, I mean, that's like with Mr. Fantastic. That track, beautiful. I mean, that track alone, I've heard people have done whole interpretations. The track One Beer, I think that's an amazing track. It's classic, has a bop to it. Let's see, also another album anniversary. The Velvet Underground with their 1970 album Loaded. Really great. I would consider myself a pretty good fan of that band. Let's see what we also had here. Also, A Tribe Called Quest with their 2016 album, their last one. We Got It From Here. Thank you for your service. I was like 13 when that album came out. I think that was like the first time I actually heard Tribe. I mean, I definitely heard it a few times, like from some mixtapes from the 90s, but never really got into their discography fully until I was like 17, 18. Went down that lane, that abstract hip-hop, conscious hip-hop, really, you know, Tribe and all that whatnot. But yeah, I really love that. Anyways, let's get into the next track we have for today. Given the weather today, I decided to play a little slowcore. So this is GM by Blue Tile Lounge. They are an Australian slowcore. This album's from the 90s, so it's pretty slow, which I'm very impressed. Let's get into it. And that, my friends, that's slowcore for you. Gotta love that track. That album, I stand corrected, was released in 1995. There's something special about slowcore, playing these tracks at such a very slow speed. I mean, playing music very fast, as one would say, maybe thrash metal and such like that, that's difficult as is. But to play slowly and also play in tune with everyone else, it sounds easy. And it's not. It's really not an easy task to do. But for people who are able to do that, I'm very jealous, you know? I mean, and the band was, I wouldn't say short-lived, but they only released that album and then a second one and they broke up. But I could see how they had a major influence on slowcore bands in America. One of my favorite slowcore bands would have to be, what are they called? What's that band called? Can't remember on the top of my head. There was a slowcore band from the 90s. I think they're American. I can't remember the name on the top of my head. Wow. Duster? It's not Duster, but I guess you could put Duster as the slowcore. It's one of the major slowcore artists. Definitely on TikTok. I remember when they had like a major thing on TikTok. That track, off their album Stratosphere. What's it called? Inside Out? Not Inside Out. The Duster fans will know what I'm talking about, but anyone who pays attention to TikTok religiously, unlike me, I use it here and there, but I'm not like always on it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's a classic slowcore. So I've heard even some people say early slowcore examples were Joy Division off their second album, Atrocity Exhibition. No, Atrocity Exhibition, that's the name of the track. Closer. Definitely the second half of the album, I could definitely hear that. Like that track, Decades. It still has that post-punk sound to it, but the undertones, very slowcore reminiscent. Like a key core of slowcore. And yeah. Anyways, let's talk about the last two tracks we'll be playing for today, listeners. Let's see. First, I decided to kick it off with some relaxing 2016, 2018 indie rock. It's going to be Heart to Heart by Fiddlehead. And then we're going to finish it off with some ambient, relaxing noise. Sugar Roz, I've been listening to that album a ton recently again. If you haven't heard the album, it's beautiful. It made me cry, honestly, the first time I actually heard the album. And that's, I'm going to say, if an album can make me cry, it's doing something right. It's like, I feel like I should be listening to more of that album instead of less of it. Like, no, I want to listen to it again and again and again. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, it's not easy. Some people say they don't really like listening to sad music. It's not their thing. To each their own. I feel like it's something important. Sure, you may not like it, but it could definitely help you out, depending on your situationship and whatnot like that. It's beautiful. Very beautiful. Let's get into the tracks right now. How about that? So anyways, let's start off. Alright, listeners, and that finishes up for this week's radio show. I'd like to remind the audience out there that this week is Thanksgiving on Thursday. So, whatever you're doing, whether you're celebrating by yourself or with family, please do so safely. And if you are going to go Black Friday shopping, treat the retail workers with some respect. I mean, come on. They have to work on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Give them a break. They don't have something in stock. Don't be mean to them. Just admit it. You weren't lucky. Getting into a fight over saving $20 for a TV is not worthful, Because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen like 2 years ago. And I remember last year I went to Target and I saw some woman got taken down because she was like making a fuss over shopping carts. The best and worst of people are brought out on that day. It's a lovely day. Anyways, that wraps up for today's shows. We played a total of 7 tracks. As always, this week's playlist will be available on Instagram via Rigo Hates Art. I do play this on both Apple Music and Spotify because I like wasting my money. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Final thoughts of today. I like pepper jack cheese. I want y'all to think about that. Till next week. So that wraps it up for today. This was Coffee Noise. I'm your host, DJ Marlin. See you next week. And remember, stay tuned. You're listening to Vaquero Radio's The Valley's only student station. Alright, catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.